Hi, welcome back to Book Chats from Lonsdale Public Library. As I'm sure you know, it is almost Valentine's Day. So last week, Miss Penny talked to you about romance novels. La la la. But what about those of us who, don't read romance novels? Do we get any love? The answer, of course, is yes. So I'm going to talk to you about some books that are not romance novels. For those of us who are maybe a little too cynical for romance novels, but sometimes you read a good book and they sneak a little romance in there for you. So I'm going to start with Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. It's the first book in a trilogy, really fantastic. And it might be a little bit of a cheat because it is primarily about the relationship between these two people, but it's definitely not a traditional romance novel. It's about Louisa, who's a working class gal. In Britain, she loses her job in a cafe, and she ends up sort of almost accidentally as a companion to Will, who was one of those sort of masters of the universe, rich and handsome and important job and adventurous life, until he was in an accident and ended up quadriplegic. So now he's stuck living with his parents, and he's a little bitter. He's lost all of his exciting life. And so it takes him a while to figure out their differences. There's definitely a lot of clashing. But over time, their differences help to, they tend to turn out to be good for each other. Louisa helps Will to sort of get out of the house and maybe encourage him that there's still things he can do, even though he's quadriplegic. And he encourages Louisa that the world is bigger than her small town and that she can hope for more than, what she thought was, the limitations on her. So it's a bit of an emotional roller coaster, be warned. You may laugh, you may cry. But I think it's a beautiful story. And next, we're going to talk about a book that I just adore. I think it's very funny and charming. It's called The Rosie Project by Graeme Simsion. This also, like Me Before You, is the first of a trilogy. And it's about Don Tillman, who's a genetics professor. And he has a big brain, but limited social skills, let's say. And he decides he wants to get married. And so, of course, the way to do that is scientifically. He devises a questionnaire that is designed to find him the perfect woman for him. Not surprisingly, this does not go really, really well. But meanwhile, he has agreed to help a gal named Rosie, who's a bartender, and absolutely everything that's not on his list. But he's helping her find her biological dad. And it turns out that maybe a friendship with someone who's completely different than him is exactly what he needs. And maybe that's true of her as well. So it's a quirky, charming little book, and I highly recommend it. And then we're going to go for the big adventure of Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. You may be familiar with the TV series, which is also excellent. But of course, I always recommend the books, because there's always a lot more in the books than in any TV series. Outlander is the first of the series. There's currently 8 books, and she's working on the 9th. And they are, as you can see, it's kind of a beefy book, but that's because it is jam-packed with excitement. This first one starts just after World War II, when Claire Randall, who's English, is vacationing in Scotland with her husband. And she quite accidentally finds herself transported back in time to 1743, where she gets mixed up with a group of Highlanders and a dangerous British officer. And so in order to protect herself and them, she has to marry Jamie Fraser. And at first they don't know each other, but I'm not going to reveal any big secret to tell you that they fall in love, and that the relationship of these two people is at the center of this big, long, sweeping epic. There's politics, there's fights, there's real historical events and people, there's romance, there's excitement, And that's just the first book. So if you're ready to dive into a big, exciting series, go for it. And then finally, I'm going to talk about a mystery series, JD Robb's In Death series. This is actually the third one. It was the earliest one I found on the shelf today. You may know Nora Roberts as a romance writer. You may or may not know that under the name JD Robb, she writes the In Death series, which is, it's a near future police procedural. So it's about Eve Dallas, who's tough as nails detective. She is all about the job with very little personal life, at least until a suspect in the first book is Rourke, who's a multi-billionaire with a bit of a roguish past. And sparks immediately fly between the two of them. And it's not a series about the romance. It's a series about solving crimes, which is how it continues to be fresh. There are 52 books in the series at this point, which is a crazy number of books. But because they follow a crime in each one, if you're into mysteries, they still stay fresh. But at the center, there is the relationship between these two people. And what I really like about the relationship is that even though Rourke is very rich and powerful, he never overwhelms Eve. They're very much equals. You can tell that they've really found the right person in each other. They're both damaged, but tough and smart. So if you like, a good police series, this is a lot of fun. Every book has one or two, mushy bits. If you're like me, you can skip right over them. But if you like the mushy bits, you can read them. So there you go. So those are my recommendations for books that have romance for those of us who aren't romance people. Let me just mention, if you have kids, we are doing Valentine's Day packets. If you did summer reading or Halloween, you're familiar with the concept. They're going to have coloring pages, worksheets, a craft, a recipe, and some candy. We'll be putting them out Friday the 12th at noon, and they'll just be in the entryway until they're gone. All right, thank you.